Hello, and welcome to Gianni Batici's team selection video brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. I am not Gianni Batici, but you know who is Gianni Batici? Hey, mate.
Gianni Batici.
How you doing?
Hello, mate. Lovely to have you back. I've done these on my Todd for the last, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, which has been cool. Like doing it by yourself is a different experience. It's something I'm not
Have
used
you
to.
seen a little spike up? Yeah, a little bit more
I
traction.
don't think so. I tell you what, I have seen a massive spike down with regards to X minutes. I reckon I
Hey,
talk about 15 minutes max. I think last week's was something like 12. Yeah, when we're together, it's usually a good 30,
can't
25,
imagine what the common
30.
factor there is.
Yeah, yeah. So no, lovely to have you back, mate. Always good to
Oh,
chat.
lovely
And
to see you. Like, sorry, I've not been around for a couple. Work and
maybe if
life
I'd
and
had you, I would have
stuff.
got some green arrows.
Well, yeah. So where are you now then? We're doing this Wednesday afternoon. Middle of this double game week. We've not had Wednesday nights matches, which are big for the doublers. So on screen we've got you at 197k, but
Oh,
that may
God.
not be a real reflection. There's a lot of movement to come. How are you feeling about that? Where have you moved from? Where do you hope to end up?
I think I started the game week on about 160. So
Okay.
that's what a 40k red at the moment. But loads of players to play. The classic, I've still got 10 of my 11 starters. But then I also fear that everyone at my rank also has 10 of 11 starters to play. So let's see how it goes. It's not been a good season, mate. It's been a terrible season.
Oh, buddy.
And yeah, I was getting reds at the wrong time. Feels like at the moment, like I'm kind of sort of par, but I'm just not seeing big improvements. So yeah, if I can finish the season with a 5-digit rank, 99,999th rank, I would absolutely take that. And if you'd
Yeah.
offered me that at the start of the season, I'd have been like, not a chance. I'm way better than that. But now I'd absolutely love under 100k. So look, I still think it's possible. I still think my team looks good. I think I'm well set. But come game week 37, 38, I might need to think a little bit differently to chase that. I really couldn't care if I finish on 200k or 500k. Like, I will take risks if I need to take risks.
Yeah.
I've got my target now. That's all I care about getting is the top 100k. Therefore, it's irrelevant to me. I'm not one of those that will worry about, oh, if I finish 500k, then my overall rank history won't look as good than the 200k. It's like they both look rubbish. So who cares?
Reasonable. I mean, hey, rubbish is obviously, relative to your excellent finishes in the past. But I think it's an interesting conversation, which we'll come on to when we talk about teams next week as well, which is I spend most of the season probably saying, don't do different stuff. Just,
Hmm.
it's not as fun, but go for the obvious stuff because it'll work. We are entering that point of the season where I think even the people who advocate being boring are starting to say, yeah, unless you're within X% of your target, which could be mini leagues, right? I mean, for me,
Yeah.
there are some mini leagues in the work one. I don't know if anyone from work ever watches this, but the work one.
The work mini league is always way more important than
I
any
will
other,
take,
in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, like, obviously, if you finish like first in the world, you're winning your mini league. But I would take like winning my mini league and finishing whatever it is, just below where I wanted to be in the world, whatever. That's the one for me. It used to be the family one, but the family gave up. They have lives or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think this is the part of the
Weirdos.
season where you can start taking those risks. And those risks are relative to if it's an overall rank thing, you're looking at EO. If it's a mini league one, that's almost the more interesting because it's not
Yeah.
EO. Then you're maybe looking at one person, you're trying to predict their moves, get a player they either can't get or some people are in the reverse position. If you're top and you're defending, you're maybe just trying to predict what your chasers will do and try and block those points.
Honestly, I've gone into game week 38 before, literally copying moves that I know that the person ranked below Toby, say in our Pentagon, which is my uni mates mini league,
Yeah.
which is actually my most important. I've gone into it going, I'm taking a minus 16 because all the players Toby's got that can hurt me, I just want to own them because I'm 30 points clear. And if
Yeah.
I take a minus 16 just to match him, it will
Yeah.
work. Like I've been there, done that. And yeah, far more important is bragging rights in that league than any overall rank for me at the moment. But yeah, it's a very interesting one. Like take Haaland this week. Effective ownership matters. He's over 200%, which means as your captain on Thursday night, you can't celebrate his goals because it works against you unless you've triple captained him.
Yeah.
But if you're going for mini league success, his EO in that mini league might not be 200%. So that's when it matters.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I was just looking as well, like, there's a little difference in our rank here. Again, it's midweek, game week, so who cares? But still, points wise, okay, we're coming towards the end now, so, there are a few points in it. But I'm on, again, as we stand now, 2264. you're on 2191. So 70 points, which is now enough probably to say that, we will finish this way round.
Yeah.
But it's still not that many. Like if there were 10 weeks left and not 4 or whatever it is, including
week,
now, you'd almost say that, a couple of good shots and you could make that a chip. A chip could be worth 20 to 30 points. It's still going to be, I've not looked into the data for this, but this season feels closer than we've had before, just in terms of how condensed points are in terms of what they mean for ranks.
I'd agree with that. I feel like it feels closer. I was looking at it going, if I'd gone Watkins over Havertz, like the world on their dog did, that's 35 point swing. Where would my rank be? And it's disappointing to look and go, God, 35 points. That's the rank I'm fairly happy with. But this season, to make up, let's say I've got to make up those 70 points off you in 4 game weeks. Like I would love it to be possible, but it doesn't feel possible because of Haaland. And I go back to Haaland because he is the go-to captain. And because so many are captaining Haaland, and it feels like if you don't, you get punished, you've got to go against him. Yet in years gone by, you might have gone against an Aguero or against a Salah or against a Kane because it's been more split and you take those gambles. This year, we're more reluctant to go against the obvious in Haaland. And therefore, let's say I beat you for those 70, I make up 70 points. It means I've got to not only go against Haaland, probably, but I've got to massively win big against Haaland as well. Now, those two things just don't align at the moment because you go against Haaland and you get stung for it.
Which is interesting as well, because there was small discussion on Twitter at one point about, is Haaland the best fantasy asset ever or whatever, see what points he ends on. But I think Salah, so far, points per game or whatever, Salah's best season, and he got close as well in some others, have been worth more points than Haaland's. But I think you're right. For whatever reason, maybe it's because the team he plays for, maybe it's because of the alternatives. There isn't maybe Salah doing as well as he has in the past. Kane's done brilliant, but for reasons we haven't gone there, potentially because it's another forward spot. Psychologically, it does feel like Haaland is more dominant than we had in the past, even if factually that isn't the case. And I guess one thing, while I agree with you, Haaland's your captain most of the time, if not all the time. I guess one thing that does present is if you are looking, maybe more mini-league than, overall, if you are looking to try and gain an edge, you probably know who everyone's going to captain. Whereas in the past, if we had, Aguero's, Salah's, Fabregas's, whoever it is, maybe there's like, if I captain Fabregas when Gerrard was actually the best captain, made up example, maybe I can get an edge. And then your rival goes Fabregas and you're like, shucks, they've beat me to it. Whereas this year, maybe look, there's a 95% chance they're going Haaland. So at least I know I will guarantee a differential, even if I end up worse. So maybe there's the angle to play there.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I didn't consider that way and that route. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But again, going back to ownership, Haaland's like 82% owned, 82.9%. We've never had a player anywhere near like when Salah was the popular go-to captain every week, he was always 50% max, or same with Aguero.
Yeah. Did we have like a 70% Trent at one? Was that maybe last year when he was like in the 6 mil?
Yeah, maybe we have, but again, he wasn't a captaincy option. We've never had a legit captaincy option, consistent captaincy option with that level ownership. It's been the Salahs, Agueros, and Kanes, but 50% ish is kind of the ceiling. But now we look at it, it's like 80% plus is painful.
Yeah. Well, do you think we've done 12 minutes just on the intro? Do you think we've outdone last week? Yeah, sweet, cool, mission accomplished. Let's look at your points, my friend. So I have your points up here on screen. I don't have the total 57. I think we have actually here. Grabbed it up for you.
Yeah, -8.
Okay. That's going to hurt as well. Obviously, you'd hope that would come in, but a 49 is... Lots of other people have taken hits, but that's a tough one. That might be the bigger difference at the moment before your team have fully come in.
Yeah, I think so. And when we look at it, like the 3 transfers the 3 players I bought in this week were De Gea, returned, smart. And it would have been Raya in goal. Everyone was, don't sell Raya, he's got Nottingham Forest. It's like, he got 2 points. I'm happy there with 1 game. Trent, okay, that's kind of what, it was Ake I sold with a heavy heart, who's back training. And then Diogo Jota, and we'll speak about him later. Yeah. So the 3 players I bought in have all returned and have another fixture. We don't know if Jota does. So I sold Kane, I sold Ake, and I think I sold... Raya. So Kane returned, but I'm happy with that. And a little bit like selling Bruno 2 weeks ago. I was happy selling Bruno and I was happy selling Kane. And even though these guys have both returned, I don't look at it and go, I wish I hadn't sold them, because I knew where I wanted my team to go to, and that was towards Liverpool. and I was just backing the fixtures that Liverpool had in this double game week. And sure, I knew Bruno points were coming, and I knew Kane would probably carry on scoring. But I was like, I definitely want Salah, I definitely want Trent, I definitely want Jota. But anyway, yeah, if you want to pick up any points on my actual team points, Seb, we'll run through it for pod listeners. I'll let you take the reins on it.
Sure, thank you kindly. I will quickly run through the team here then. So we have De Gea in goal with 6 so far, a fixture to come. I think that's a very smart move. Trippier, Trent and Estupinian, a common backline probably. The Brighton defender doing you lovely there as well. Even though you've got the double Brighton mid, you got some points that the rest of us probably didn't from that rotation. Speaking of mid, we've got Grealish, March, Matoma on trip 1, and Salah vice-captain, Rashford, both a little return there. Jota up front, who didn't get the minutes, but did get the points and didn't get a red card, the whole thing. Haaland captain, of course, like most. You've got Botman first on your bench, although I think, similar to me, I had a similar thing, and that was, I was trying to think, is there a way he ever got into my team? No, really no.
Not a hope. Yeah.
Chilwell, Greenwood, I think is a smart move there. Just get some money into your team. And then Kepa, of course, who may come in useful in the future for Chelsea's double. So you made, was it 3 transfers? And since we've last spoken, I think, have you done a Fernandes to Grealish maybe? Was that last week, 2 weeks ago?
No, I was really early on Grealish. I bought him the week before people wanted him.
Who became... Oh, Maddison. That was the last time we spoke, wasn't it? I think. Did you?
Yeah, maybe it was Maddison to Grealish. Yeah, and that was 3-4 weeks ago. But I went Bruno to Salah when I saw the Bruno image of him on crutches and stuff. I was like, he's not going to play.
Oh, that
not going to play. Oh. So that move didn't work straight away. But I was like, it doesn't matter because I want Salah for the double, and Salah for the double's great, and Bruno's double's okay. But Bruno's outscored Salah so far in this double game week, and we'll see what Salah does against Fulham. But I'm still okay with it. Like I know my heart was set on I had to have triple Liverpool for this double. You've
got to back Salah to come out of this week with more points, I think, than Bruno, even with, was it a 4-point difference now? But one's got Fulham at home, one's got Brighton away. So you've got to back Salah there. I think the interesting ramifications here are more sort of the future weeks. So you may well want triple Man United back for their future fixtures. You've got your triple Liverpool though, so I think that's nice. There's obviously no Arsenal. None of us have got Arsenal. Interesting conversation there about whether that's a differential you can hit up. Ødegaard obviously cashing in those extra minutes against Martinelli last night. But I think for me, I guess the one is this is a horrible game to play, right? We've already had some points. We've got some points to come. I'm sat here with hindsight, but it's the Jota. Could that have been like you've already got Greenwood, so maybe it couldn't have done. But could that have been down to an even cheaper one, and you could have had Salah and Fernandes in this team? But then what are you doing? You're selling Grealish? That seems silly ahead of doubles, even if you wouldn't buy him. Selling him ahead of doubles seems silly. You've got your double Brighton mids, which I think are wonderful. We didn't know. Yeah, we had a few hints that they may get rested, but they've got more fixtures to come. There's no guarantee they'd get rested at the same time. I think selling those Brighton mids, unless you had transfers to burn, wouldn't have made much sense. So, yeah, the only one for me is Jota. So what was the thinking there?
I mean, the move would and could have been is down to a Newcastle forward, right? Everyone, the world on their dog was saying, if you're selling whoever it was, go down to Isak. He's got the double. He's playing really well. And I was like, well, I don't still quite know what Newcastle forward I want. Like Callum Wilson was still, I was like, Callum Wilson's not starting, but he's scoring goals when he plays. And then again, we saw it at the weekend. He got 45 minutes, clocked an XG of like 2.38, scored a couple of goals. I wonder if Eddie Howe is going to start playing them together now Champions League football feels safe. And he's got to trial that going into the summer because it'll affect their plans in the transfer market. If he sees the starting Newcastle lineup next year, either with a front two or with Wilson 9, Isak left in a front 3. But he's got to experiment with both those things, both in the starting 11. And if they're both starting, then it's Wilson all day long in terms of FPL points. In terms of player, maybe there's a different conversation. But in terms of what you get bang for your buck, you want Callum Wilson. So I'm glad I've held on that. I can still make the Jota switch to the Newcastle forward for game week 36 when Newcastle double. But in game week 35, Jota has Brentford at home. I love that fixture. I like that fixture a lot. And the double game week for Liverpool. I know he had the back injury, but I was like, it's 2 really good fixtures for him. And yes, he came off the bench and only got me 4 points. But the Fulham at home fixture that he plays tonight, if he gets 30 minutes, I think he gets me points. I think he gets me a return. I just hope he has a chance of more than 30. But look, he might not feature at all, and then it's a bad move. And you can say it was high risk, and it absolutely was. And if my rank was 20, 30k in the world, would I have made that that move? Probably not. I made that move because I was like, my season is where it's at. As I mentioned earlier, I don't care if I finish at 200k or 500k. Jota's a risky punt, but he's got a huge ceiling in a double game week.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his ownership, like he's 5% owned. Like it's a really nice differential. Every point Jota gets flies me up with Green Arrow. So I'm really happy I made the move, even knowing what we know. If it doesn't work for me, I still think he could bag big against Brentford. I just hope he's fit for at least Fulham or Brentford.
What would you have done if you were 20, 30k then? Because you mentioned there you may not have done that if you were a little higher ranked. What would you have done? What would have been a different move?
I probably wouldn't have taken a -8. I probably would have considered playing a Botman and a Haaland up front, a lone forward, and then held on my Newcastle asset.
Yeah.
I mean, I sold Harry Kane. Maybe Kane stays in, but I think I needed the Kane money to be able to afford Trent, and Trent wasn't essential for me this week.
Yeah.
So maybe it would have been a cheaper forward, and it would have been a Newcastle forward. Or maybe, as I say, I would have gone -4 instead of -8. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, and I still would have gone Jota because that's the game I play. It's hard to nail exactly what I do because hindsight's a wonderful thing. But my management style, I guess, if I look back at previous seasons, probably would have gone Jota regardless of rank. I don't know. I just said I didn't, but maybe I would have.
Like Jota wasn't a bad shout. Like we were just talking.
It was just the training photos, wasn't it?
Yeah, and obviously Fernandez as well. That was all part of that deal that you bought into. That sounds like you've been sold a dud there. What I mean is you obviously took on under advisement the idea that maybe Jota was fit. Fernandez didn't look like he was, which I think is reasonable, right? We saw photos of him on a sofa, thing around his leg, whatever it was. We knew he was injured. I think we need to be careful about taking photos like that. A bit like training pictures, a bit like, when the comm team put up, match day today and you see a player and it's like, yeah, but the comm team don't know who's starting. Yeah. All of that sort of stuff we can take as like a little hint, maybe. We need to be careful making decisions off it. But if we know a player is injured, if we see them actively recovering from said injury, I wouldn't say that's a reason to burn the player on its own. But if you're thinking, I need to fund these moves, who in my team can be sacrificed? Well, no one else has got a reason to go. Maybe March Matoma with rest, whatever, but I think they're more useful going forward. Fernandez was your sacrificial lamb. Even if you'd known he was fully fit, you wouldn't have done it. You needed a reason, you found a reason.
Absolutely needed a reason. Do you know what? I was considering selling Bruno to Salah anyway, because it was a trigger I needed, Seb. I knew I needed Salah for this double game week. In my head, that was the move I had to have. Yeah. And I knew I wasn't selling Rashford. I 100% wasn't selling a Brighton mid. And I wasn't even close to considering selling Grealish. And I know some did sell Grealish, and fair enough, because he's blanked in the last couple. But it was I'm going to be selling Bruno. And if Bruno even had returned big in that game, first game back when he hit the bar, I still would have sold him. He's been dodging points for so long, and he's looked so good. Yeah. And fair play to all those Bruno owners that when I don't need Salah, I'm going to keep Bruno, or I'm going to go both and sacrifice Grealish. But I wasn't willing to do those things, and I just preferred Salah to Bruno. I think Bruno's still a great FPL option, and maybe I have him come game week 37. But we should probably mention Jack Grealish, because those that sold him have got really, really lucky. Like, if I look back, it's part of a double game week. Firstly, we don't know if he'll start now against West Ham, because you've got to think he's going to get a rest at some point. But he gets 90 minutes against Fulham. His XGI was 0.46, so it doesn't look huge, but hit the bar, a shot or two on target, teed up Haaland a couple of times for Haaland chances, not big chances, but chances, ones which Haaland does tuck away at times. So you look at it and think, how's he, and then gets the yellow card and loses the clean sheet point. How's he come away with 1 point in that football match? Yeah. So I'm really happy with what I'm seeing from Jack Grealish. And I think those that own him, especially for the double, are going to get points. He's shooting more than I think he ever has. And when we look back at Man City wide forwards under Pep, they've always been fairly greedy. Foden, Mahrez, Sane, Sterling, Jack Grealish isn't greedy at all. And I think Pep probably wants him to be a little bit more greedy and to shoot, not necessarily on sight, because he'll always look up first and go, I'm provider first. Where's Haaland? He's an assist guy. Grealish plays a different game to many wide forwards. He's not in it to score necessarily. But I think we'll see him shoot more and more. And I think he's spoken about getting those numbers up, which is good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of minutes, I think you're relatively comfy. Of course, Foden is back, though we saw him on the right a bit more. Bernardo can play over there too. But I think it's more about Pep rather than personnel availability. And sure, there's a bit of managing minutes, but I think now it's about how he plays the remainder of the season tactically. We know that Grealish is in his best, inverted commas, 11, but he's also in his I need to control this match 11, which often is the same thing. Yeah. But it's often the same 11. Sometimes it isn't, though, right? Because Bernardo maybe isn't in the best 11, depending on who they're playing. But he is in the I must control a match. Yeah. Alvarez, right, looked brilliant the other night when KDB either was injured or if Pep wants to set up against that low block, maybe KDB sits, Alvarez comes in, so there's another striker in the team. Grealish is in all of those teams. Every permutation he's in. So I think what you end up seeing is he only really sits out if maybe tactically Pep knows he needs to hit fast into space, so there's a Foden on the left, Amara's on the right, maybe, but even then he maybe just plays Foden right and Grealish left anyway to keep one of his control players in. And then the other one is because he's resting him ahead of, say, Real Madrid, and I think that is 36, is it, against Leeds?
Yeah, so he won't start the West Ham or Leeds game in my opinion, Grealish, but because again, if you look at the minutes he's had in the last couple of months, he's probably had more than any of those attacking players. But yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah. And again, like Champions League final and an FA Cup final, we also have to consider like there's going to be 2 finals there. And does that affect game week sort of 37, 38 minutes? Possibly. But again, I think the spacing is going to be okay. So yeah, he's going to be a good option for the run-in, I'm sure. And he has to start scoring, surely.
He's due. That's how this works. And I think just before we move on to your team for next week, looking at your team here as well, I think you get more points between today and the end of this game week than I do. I've got Tony up front with Haaland. He's played. He got 7, but he's played. I think Jota only has to turn up to basically match that. I've got Fernandes. You have Grealish, if that's much of a match. But I like the Trent, Salah, Jota tonight. I think that could be something to really look forward to. Okay, FPL, if you don't get the points, you do get the points, whatever. But I think that'd be a nice match if you're free to watch, to hopefully enjoy in a positive sense, because I've got Trent and Salah. So almost no matter what happens, I'm breaking even or losing a bit of rank there because it's Hakpo and Jota that are going to steal it from me. I think you get to watch that with a smile because you're going to gain points. You're going to gain rank.
If Jota plays, we know he's doubtful.
True, but even then, okay, you're maybe losing it to Hakpo, but how widely owned is he? Like, other people who have forwards, maybe it's Isak, maybe it's Tony like me, maybe it's Watkins, they've all played. So even if he just comes off the bench, I think the worst case is you just have Salah and Trent like me. I mean, famous last words, right? But I don't think tonight can be painful for you. I think it should be a nice watch. And then there's Grealish, who's a little bit different. Yeah, there's KDB, but he's already sat once. If he plays, he could score a brace. Of course he could. But hopefully, Grealish with 1 point in the bank is similar to KDB. So I think there's positive stuff here.
Yeah, you're right. I expect a green like for the rest of the game week. Whether I catch my 160 that I started the game weekend, I don't know. But yeah, absolutely, I'm with you there. There's very few players now that can hurt me, especially with De Bruyne injury.
Yeah. Right, so let's talk about next week then. So you're going to be ranked 120k. You'll be pushing for the top 100. This is your team for game week 35. Why don't you run it through for us and talk about any transfers, any lineup decisions you have here? There's maybe one interesting one, I think.
Yeah, so I've gone for 3-5-2 De Gea in goal, Trippier, Trent and Estupinan, the midfield 5 we've just discussed with Grealish, March, Matoma, Salah and Rashford, and then Jota, who's going to be fit and going to bang big against Brentford at home, and then Haaland, who at the moment I've got the armband on, but again, minutes for Haaland in game against West Ham are going to be really important for what we do with him against Leeds. A bit like Grealish too, like Haaland and Grealish, both of them, you expect them to lose minutes against West Ham or Leeds. And I say lose minutes because I was going to say be benched against West Ham or Leeds, but there is a chance these guys could perhaps start games and then if they're cruising, they come off at half time. We have seen that with Pep before or close in and around Champions League games. So it'll be an interesting one because if, for example, Haaland gets 90 versus West Ham, would I want to give him the armband versus Leeds? I'm not sure. And look, there's other good candidates. Salah and Jota play Brentford at home. Maybe you want to go Rashford. I don't know. I think the minutes we see for the remainder now of this game week are going to be really important. On the bench, I have Kepa and Chilwell, who play Bournemouth away. If you go off bookies odds, and bookies odds I often quite like, but the the bookies still seem to think Chelsea are like a top 4 team. So a couple of weeks ago, when Chelsea played Brentford, for example, the Chelsea clean sheet odds were 44%. Chelsea would keep a clean sheet, and Brentford's clean sheet odds were 22%. So everyone saw those odds and went, I'm going to play Kepa over Raya. And of course, we remember Kepa conceded 2, Raya kept a clean sheet. And I think Raya got like a 9-pointer and Kepa a 1-pointer. And a few of us were like, the bookies odds though, 44% and 22%. It wasn't even close. Well, the bookies completely got that one wrong. And again, I looked this weekend and I think Chelsea are the second or third team most likely, according to the bookies, to keep a clean sheet. If you're watching Chelsea recently, they should not be second or third, and the bookies have it wrong. Look, Bournemouth will score at home, I reckon.
Fair. Allow me very quickly to take the other side of that then, because that's what I'm here for, I suppose. So I hear you. I think 44% and 26, whatever it is a big enough difference to say that these people whose literal job is to make money off of you and to prevent you making money didn't get it wrong. Because again, this is the, probabilistic versus the sort of binary thinking that we like as humans. 44% isn't 100. There's 56% available there for Chelsea to concede. And likewise, there's 70% for Brentford to concede. But that does mean that one of the possible outcomes is what we got. I guess the other thing to keep in mind is that this isn't FPL. This is just clean sheet odds. We know that if Brentford are going to keep a clean sheet, or if they're not, but they're playing a team like Chelsea who may put in more shots, Raya is going to get those save points. Another conversation about, clean sheets versus saves and everything in FPL. It's an interesting one, but it's not quite what we're talking about here. But when it comes to bookies, they only care about the clean sheet. It doesn't matter if someone makes saves or whatnot. So we do need to take that into account. If it's close, which this wasn't, we may want to edge the goalkeeper that was going to get more saves because we then give ourselves a chance of higher points, whether the clean sheet goes for us or not. In this case, I think the bookies, you can argue a few percent here or there, right? But it's 20%. I don't think if they got it 20% wrong regularly, they'd go out of business. So I'm comfortable trusting that, inverted commas, going forward. But of course, we can make judgment decisions in any moment. And I think fair play to anyone who went against it. You called it correctly. The interesting one is, does that logic work for you in the future? If the argument is this was just a one-off, then absolutely fair enough. But then I don't think this is the conversation we're having, right? For me, however, this week, as you've mentioned, would you trust them? You've got Trippier, maybe it's the Trippier, Chilwell one. I think with the attacking returns there against Bournemouth, Chelsea away, you're a Chelsea fan, so maybe you're feeling that. What do you think?
Yeah, watching Chilwell again last night, he's still getting in some goodish positions. And again, if we look at clean sheet odds this week, the bookies, I feel, will still back the bigger historical big 4, big 6. So, for example, this week, Chelsea at 38% likely for a clean sheet, same as Liverpool. Like 2 really bad defences that I don't think will keep a clean sheet. Yet Newcastle were 24%. I could look at Man United. I've got David Gea,
so to be fair, did you say 38% for a clean sheet?
Yeah.
So the bookies don't think they'll keep a clean sheet either. They're less than
they're
50% chance for clear. Yeah. So I think
Man City are only 50 over 50. No.
So I mean, anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But I think it's interesting, and of course, it should just be a part of our decision making. And the most important thing for me, whether you agree with myself or Gianni there, is not to take this one example and build a rule set around it, right? This is just one piece of data into whatever we want to build for ourselves.
And I do think Chilwell over Trippier is a potential option.
Yeah.
You could even look at that midfield and go, Jack Grealish starts against West Ham. He's probably going to be benched versus Leeds, and there's a good chance he comes on and gets a 1-pointer and a 15-minute cameo.
Well, for me,
with that in mind, Chilwell comes in for Grealish and I play a back 4, for example.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, I interrupted you there, my friend, but that was a lovely segue. I wanted to jump on it into Man City. So we have a 3 p.m. kickoff in 4 games, 5:30 for Liverpool on the Saturday, and no early game. So 1:30 deadline. Potentially a little bit of team news if you happen to be around on Twitter at the time. We should maybe get some City hints. Of course, standard caveat of website might go down, so have a bus team set up, please, even if you're ready to respond to news. And also, of course, rumours and news are 2 different things. Don't take it as 100%, make a judgment call based on the information you get. But the other interesting one here is we probably aren't going to get news for like Arsenal, who are on the Sunday. Liverpool are at 5:30, so we probably aren't going to get a lineup. But we might hear if someone travels, doesn't travel, if someone is whatever, maybe looking like starting. Now, that's the one that you do have to take as a bit of a guess. But a little nudge there. If, for example, you learned that Jota wasn't starting, but both Haaland and Grealish were, you're probably captaining Haaland. If you learned
Yeah.
that Haaland wasn't starting, which I think we may find out, and
Yeah.
you either didn't know that Jota was benched or at least hadn't had it confirmed in the negative, there's a world here where maybe you're transferring out in Alvarez or you're captaining Jota or Salah. And I think if we're looking for a difference, I think Salah outscores Jota. There's no question there. But if you're looking for a differential here, in your situation specifically, do you go with, well, look, I'm probably going to lose the various outcomes here, but which one gives me the biggest win? It is a Haaland benching, a Jota captaincy, and a Salah blank. That's your biggest upside, even if it's your lowest probability.
I think I referenced this at the top of the show. Like I said, could Jota be an option if Haaland is benched? And I think I'd do it. I think I'd captain Jota over Salah, and not just because it's the biggest win if it comes in, but I know you've just mentioned you'd go Salah over Jota in a heartbeat.
Yes.
At the moment, depending on what we see tonight from Salah, I'm okay going Jota. I think I would back Jota over Salah. Sure, penalty appeal is huge. And Liverpool are getting pens of late. I think Salah's missed 2, scored 1 recently in like the last, 5-6 weeks.
After getting none for like 25 weeks or whatever it was,
I like Jota a lot. The way he's playing, again, look at the weekend just gone. 27 minutes, he clocked a higher XG than I think Hakpo, Salah combined. Jota for me would be the one, and I'd do that. I'd captain him if I knew Haaland was benched. I really think I would, but I'd have to know Jota was starting at the same time.
Okay, here's then. I think this is a useful, especially with the weekend we're likely to have, which is potential team news, but maybe 10 minutes to sort your team out. So you get your bus team set, and then I think the way to play this is you have in your head, if X happens, I do Y. So what are your conditions and your responses according to the rules we can set here? So let me throw at you. We learn there are no surprises. We have no news about Liverpool, so you can assume it's the front three you think we're likely to start either way. And we learn that Haaland, Grealish, KDB, it's just City's strongest team. Alvarez is benched. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm sticking with what we have on screen. Haaland captain easy.
Yep. And rolling a transfer?
And definitely rolling a transfer, yeah. I do want a Newcastle forward. But the Newcastle forward would be bought for Gameweek 36, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think they could definitely score at home to Arsenal, so you could go a week early. I need another week to scout which one I'm going for.
Oh, and you definitely wait. What if Wilson picks up an injury? What if Isak picks up an injury?
Exactly.
You definitely wait.
And again, if Wilson plays 90, you're like, oh, he's definitely going to be on the bench for game 1 of the double. So again, I'm looking there for hopefully Wilson to get half an hour, and you're like, okay, now he's going to start the next one. So yeah, I'm going to wait. I'm very reluctant to make a transfer. I guess one of those scenarios, Seb, could be, and you're probably going to hit me with this now, is Alvarez.
Yeah,
go on.
That scenario 2 then. So we have no Liverpool news. So it is the Liverpool lineup that you prefer yourself based on existing information. We learn, however, that I guess there are 2 permutations here, so I'll give you both. KDB is benched and Alvarez starts, or scenario 2B, Haaland is benched and Alvarez starts.
Yeah, I could sell Jota. I could sell Jota for Alvarez in just a simple switch there. I purposely kept that City spot open. I mean, I was actually 0.1 short of buying Edison anyway, but I like the idea of keeping it open. I think
can't
Alvarez?
Have Edison, mate. You can't keep clean sheets.
Exactly. Yeah, I was so desperate to get Edison over De Gea as well, and look what happened. But I'm sure it'll pay off. Those that have got Edison, eventually it has to. But I don't know, Alvarez. Yeah, I'd love him for Leeds, but do I think if he starts versus Leeds, he's going to be starting going forward? No, absolutely not. Pep likes momentum, and I think he could become someone that gets a lot of 1-pointers. But for that week against Leeds, if Big Sam hadn't come into Leeds, absolutely I'd have acted on that. The one factor perhaps we now need to consider is Leeds have got a new manager that's notoriously good at shutting up shop, parking the bus, keeping clean sheets. Now, we've only had, 2 training sessions with the team before Man City. Do we think we'll see immediate gains? No. And I think City winning, it's probably comfortable. But it does play part of my thinking there that maybe I'm less likely to act.
So in the sort of, does Alvarez start scenarios, there's obviously KDB is injured or Haaland needs a rest. Those are obvious Alvarez starts. But the other one is, does Pep anticipate a low block, back 5, whatever, Allardyce, maybe a slightly higher chance than doing that than Gracia, potentially. Although we don't know what he's going to do. We know Allardyce may well focus on set pieces as well, and I'm not sure how Pep would respond to that. That's probably more a defensive question. He hasn't had time to work on our set pieces either, so they may not be that impressive other than, maybe one or two routines or something like that. But I wonder if it slightly ups Alvarez's chance of starting. Slightly.
Yeah, I think it really could. And look, with the fixture schedule and the 3 days rest each time and Real Madrid just around the corner, again, I think we have to look at minutes against West Ham and then compare it to what we think will happen against Leeds. But yeah, I think there's a very good chance he does start. But at the same time, let's say Kevin De Bruyne is injured for Thursday night's game against West Ham, which we think he is. Does Pep want Kevin De Bruyne going into that Real Madrid game, having not played football for 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks, whatever it is? Absolutely not. He's going to need minutes in his legs versus Leeds. So again, there's also that consideration. So look, I don't think I'll be massively acting on team news for City. Like Alvarez starting, maybe I try and get him into my team, but I don't think that's a definite either. I think there could be power in going, sure, it's a good Man City asset, but I've already got Grealish and Haaland. I don't think he's going to start much after game week 35. And I'd love to have 2 free transfers going into the double 36. So
I guess
it's
Alvarez...
great, but it's not, you have to act if he starts.
Sure. I guess Alvarez probably becomes a Newcastle striker for you in a week anyway. So it could be a bit of a 1 week thing. So I'll find the flip side of these scenarios then. We get Liverpool news, or at least enough rumours to think we have some information, not at Bruno Fernandes on the sofa there. Let's say City is expected. So it's Haaland, it's De Bruyne, there's no Alvarez. But you learn that Jota is starting. What are you doing there?
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that so much. I just need a Jota start. I still don't captain him if Haaland's starting too. But if there was any chat that Haaland's been benched or likely to get rested, or Pep says he's just going to get half or whatever, like Pep would tell us that, then Jota captain, I really would go differential this week.
Fair. And then, so the final scenario, there's obviously one where Jota doesn't start, Alvarez does whatever, but we've covered that. Jota does not start. My mistake. I've just repeated myself. Jota does start, and we learn that, say, Haaland doesn't. Is this the scenario where you're going Jota captain?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. And again, if Jota doesn't start, then that's a scenario where I would act on Man City team news and buy an Alvarez, for example. Nice. But if Jota's starting and I see Alvarez is starting, it's like, I'd probably prefer Jota against Brentford at home and stick rather than twist.
Lovely. I think we've talked that to death. So unless there's anything else you would love to add to this, my friend, I am very happy to wrap us there and wish you some good luck.
Yeah, mate. No, I think we covered it all. The Chilwell consideration is definitely one. I need to consider not only my midfield spots to go, do I go back 4 based on minutes we see in Wednesday, Thursday fixtures, but also does Trippier come out? Yeah. I want to play a Stupinan at home. You've got to play Trent. Trippier's output in terms of attack in the last few months hasn't been great. But again, Newcastle, I think it's 1 clean sheet in the last 13 fixtures. I don't think that's Premier League only.
Trippier did put up over 1 XA in the last match, or give or take. So
he did 1.13. Yeah, 1.13. And then the game before that, 0.06. But yeah, against Southampton, he did threaten. And the potential is there for sure. And his ownership is 66%. Like, if he bags, it can really harm you. But I'm confident Arsenal score.
You know what, though? So, yeah, fair. I think I just said I was going to wrap, but we just talked about differentials. We focused on Jota. If Trippier is 66%, Chilwell's probably like, what, 10?
Have a look. Yeah, cool. 4.8.
4. Is that not actually a differential right there for you? If it goes wrong, well, you already know that you're not going to move because of Trippier anyway. Is that actually almost a bigger gain than a very specific scenario where you captain Jota?
Yeah.
This one feels easier to go for.
Yeah, maybe it is. And maybe our chat today has convinced me, even if I go for a back 3, that Chilwell comes in, Trippier comes out. And maybe, I don't mind that at all. I wouldn't be surprised if I make that move. But as I say, I do think there's a chance I end up benching a midfielder based on what we hear in press conferences and minutes midweek.
Fair.
So I'll probably end up playing both Trips and Chilwell, who we know they'll both be starting. Like, Cucurella's not going to be playing. He's injured and rubbish. And we know Trippier's a 90-minute man week in, week out. So at least those 2 guys I can probably count on with no European football either. They're both going to be playing at the weekend.
And I think, look, Chelsea aren't what they want to be. But I do still think, even at Bournemouth, they probably are the stronger team.
It's Frank's only chance to get a win.
Yeah, quite possibly. Right, well, on that note, I will very happily wrap us there. My friend, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, mate, and look forward to chatting next week.
Absolutely. Well, good luck, and good luck to everyone watching. We will catch you this time next week, hopefully. Bye.
Thank you.